everyone, I'm Shivani Muthana from Your Story, and we're back with the second episode of CXO Diaries, hosted by NextGen and VMware in association with Your Story, where we bring together top decision makers from growth stage companies as well as large enterprises in India who are building sustainable work cultures and scaling their companies. So today we're delving deeper into the rising trend of collaboration between the legacy BFSI sector as well as new age fintechs. There was, of course, a time when traditional banks eyed fintechs as competitors, but today they see them as valuable partners to better engage with their customers and expand the ecosystem. The pandemic, of course, has also resulted in massive adoption of digital payments, and today's consumer is enabled via mobile banking and digital wallets, right from essential purchases to executing financial transactions, right from the safety and comfort of their homes. In fact, to give you a little bit more context, according to a report by PwC, 94% of financial service companies said that they were confident that fintech would help them grow their company's revenues over the next 2 years. That's indeed a positive sign. And that, of course, is something that we need to look at how it plays out in the future. But behind the scenes, the process could be riddled with questions like the impact of the business models on traditional banks and insurance firms, as well as how to really share data in an encrypted manner to avoid misuse and so on. So to share insights on this and more, we have an esteemed panel of industry leaders here with us today on Your Story. Let me quickly introduce our panelists to you. We have KV Dippu, President, Operations and Customer Experience at Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. Ratan Kesh, EVP and Head Retail Operations and Services, Axis Bank. Rameshwar Gupta, Chief Technology Officer at FreeCharge. And Rajesh Dangi, Chief Digital Officer at NextGen. Thank you so much, gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you on the panel today. So let me begin with a two-pronged question for all of you. And maybe Dippu, I can start off with you. You know, it's been over a year now since the onset of the pandemic. If you can take us through some of the challenges that the BFSI sector is encountering when it comes to recovery, that of course is picking up steam. But on the same, side, or the flip side really, we've also seen a bit of a silver lining and some emerging trends and opportunities in the financial industry right now. So how are you really reading the situation?
Good afternoon, Shivani, and hello to everyone, all my co-panelists as well as the audience, listening to us. So, 18 months into the pandemic, Shivani, if you ask me, I'll pick, two areas, firms are focused on right now. One is, since digital is here to stay, because some trends are permanent, how do we ensure that we amplify the reach across the entire country? Therefore, I think, multilingual, is clearly, an area to focus on, because English tends to be the language of choice, when it comes to digitization. So how do we really take it to the hinterland? For example, one thing we did was we came out with an exclusive app for farmers who avail of crop insurance from us only in Indian languages. And that really helped us, service them digitally. The other is, while we all have focused on digitizing the physical, I think now, it's also about, humanizing the digital. How do you bring in the efficiency and, the accuracy of bots, yet, have a healing touch? Because when customers call you up, they call you up when they are in tough times, right? So for example, how do you get the best of man and machine? So again, just to give you an example, we have a facility called Relationship Manager at Hospital, where if customers are availing of our health insurance policies, not only do we give them, digital servicing through the Relationship Manager, but he also gives them loads of empathy. And when we got an NPS, a Net Promoter Score done on this initiative, we got a score of 90 without a single detractor. So I think humanizing the digital and multilingual, I think clearly focus areas for firms across the spectrum right now.
Great, Dippu, you got right to it in terms of, digital transformation and what you sort of put into the system there at Bajaj Allianz, some great, things and strategies that you put into place there, reaching out to the hinterland and rural markets as well. And of course, the bottom line being that after all this virtual and digital transformation, humanizing all of that is critical. And now, Ratan, coming to you at Axis Bank, how have you sort of coped with the pandemic, and in terms of the future, we are emerging out of it slowly. How would you sort of weigh the challenges and opportunities at this juncture?
Thanks, Shivani. Hello, everyone. I think pandemic, we are now many months through the pandemic, and I think it's almost getting stabilized in terms of a new way of working. We today have got in our bank, roughly 70% people are operating out of home and really managing their work, both on the sales and the service front. In operations, equally almost 70% people are working from home with endpoint security, with call recording facility for call centers, and we are managing it. So 1, 2, 3 factors which are, I would say, are very clearly emerging. One is that digitization is something that everybody has embraced and imbibed in a big way. Every business leader that you talk to today, every operation leader that you talk to today, they're thinking digitization, which used to be a difficult ball game. Previously, it used to be an IT initiative. Now it is a purely business driven initiative. So people are thinking digital first, digital only solutions. That's number one. Number two, I think for a bank like ours, all the existing legacy processes that you had, we were almost forced to digitize all our existing processes. And that is a boon. I think that has been significant sort of lift in terms of our customer experience, cost efficiency, and whole bunch of seamlessness and really taking that friction out of the system. Third, I think we are actually working on reskilling and upskilling our employees, because with the bots that we have really rolled out during pandemic, bots are able to solve the simpler problems. Therefore, you need to reskill and multi-skill our employees to handle complex queries. And above all, I think, which Deepu spoke about, I think the empathy is something that is more important than ever before. How remotely we can show that little empathy, put yourself in the shoes of the customer. And we in Axis Bank call it as Dil Se Open. And that is something which is getting reflected in everything that we want to do in this journey.
Sure, some great points there, Ratan. Of course, empathy is at the core of every business now, considering that we're working with this, new normal situation and all of that. And upskilling and reskilling is also something that's really critical when it comes to the entire digitization process. Coming to you, Rameshwar, at FreeCharge, you're essentially a fintech, a digital native, so to speak. So, the pandemic, of course, must have resulted in more people taking up your products and services, considering that we had a lot of new customers onboarding when it comes to digital wallets, payments, all of that. Give us a sense of what your company did through the pandemic and what is the future looking like.
Yeah, thank you, Shivani, to having me here. Basically, we started as you said, we are like digital product company, right, into the fintech space. So that's what this pandemic not much affected us in terms of basically training people and allowing people work from home, right? We are always into the cloud and that structure. People can work from anywhere, right? In terms of business growth, obviously pandemic helps us to grow fast. We started 2-3 new product lines as well into this pandemic. So basically, in nutshell, there is a growth for us because of this pandemic, and we are looking forward to basically have lots of new product which is seamless and easy to use for the users. Which Deepu said, basically you need to build product for tier 3, tier 4 as well, so they can utilize your product seamlessly. One of that line we started pay later product right now, which is basically you no need to put anything. You can do your small ticket transactions to the any digital merchant, right? That's where we are heading to.
Okay, Rameshwar, so new product launches, and I think, what you pointed out is that you need to keep it simple and remove the complexity, even though, there's so much going on in the back end when it comes to tech. Yeah. Coming to you, Rajesh, you're, of course, from the angle of a service provider here, and that, of course, is critical when it comes to the entire tech infrastructure and backbone. So at NextGen, when you worked with, clients in the BFSI sector, how did you read all of this? Any sort of new solutions and products that you co-created with them as well, or for them?
Thank you, Shivani. Thanks for this opportunity. So, the pandemic or any kind of disaster is not an excuse for us, right? We have to keep our lights on. We have to ensure that the customers are enabled. We worked very, rigorously in terms of coping with the highest demands of our cloud, because as everybody mentioned, that everybody is going towards cloud, leveraging cloud because of the native features of the cloud that it, enables you to work from anywhere. We created and co-created some solutions, which is for digital, services. We empowered some kind of a media engines where you can actually have video conferencing as a service from us, host your own engines. We did transcoding. We did a lot of work around media. Because largest consumption of media is videos, video conferencing, anything that you do with transactions which are to be enabled. We created a platform where you can have hybrid cloud, a distributed cloud, a edge cloud, and all these platforms are made available to our users on a single click, on a pay-per-use and on demand, so that they don't get pinched with the cost. They their offtake or adoption is far more faster. And we've seen far more exciting things which have happened with this pandemic. So people are cursing pandemic, but I'm actually giving this a different tone in terms of this pandemic taught us and gave us a digital transformation kick. Everybody who was having that as an option is now digitized. They're talking digitization. The entire board is far more excited in terms of what more services they can bring in. And service providers like us are far more on their toes in terms of providing them that.
Sure, Rajesh, a great way of looking at it. Always keep your light on, enable your clients and customers, and when life gives you lemons, make lemonade is what you're saying. So basically, this is, of course, has been some sort of a stepping stone people have learned and evolved with the pandemic. Now looking at the opportunity ahead of us, and Dipu, if you can start off with your views on this, what does the collaboration between banks, insurance companies, and fintechs look like in a post-COVID world? If you can look at the challenges on one end, are there any sort of challenges in enabling this, or is it just an exciting opportunity with a lot of potential?
So Shivani, if you look at players across the ecosystem, whether it's upstarts or whether it's established behemoths, there are two things which are happening. One is the moment you get digital, when it comes to the world of apps and bots, it becomes industry agnostic, because customers now do not compare their experiences with the best amongst your peers. They compare the best experience across industries. So therefore, there is, in a way, you compete, and that competition brings in collaboration, because you're trying to reach out to people across industries. So that's one thing which happens. The other is, you spoke about fintechs. Now fintechs, broadly you can look at fintechs from 2 points of view, while there are several ways of classifying them. One is somebody who comes in and challenges the established conventional model, which is a win-win for everyone, because if it makes it better for customers, then everybody has to follow suit. The other is sometimes they pick one part of the value chain and they have a solution. So maybe in insurance somebody has a very good claim solution, then they can tie up with an existing player, right? And then collectively in a symbiotic manner they can offer a very good value proposition to customers. So collectively, if you look at the entry of all of these, if you look at the two dimensions I mentioned, I think it's only going to be a win-win-win-win, right? As in, I'm including these three entities and the customer, and I think it's going to be good for everyone.
Right. That's, of course, a really interesting point of view. Competition leads to collaboration. And at the end of the day, it's about creating that value proposition for the entire ecosystem to better serve your consumers. Coming to you, at Axis Bank, Ratan, let's talk about the shift to digital. How are you collaborating with fintechs, and how can banks really ensure that you're engaging consumers as well as your team members become more tech savvy? You, of course, brought up that whole aspect of reskilling them, but how do you also ensure that when you collaborate with fintechs, you keep it simple and ensure that the customers is actually getting a great user interface?
Yeah, you see, there are two parts to this. You asked me about how do you collaborate with fintech, and the second is how to make it simple. I think one, clearly, a lot of these great fintech companies are disrupting and really bringing cool solutions, which are really, really powerful one. Therefore, there is no point being arrogant and say, what can they do? It is better to collaborate, partner, imbibe, and then move forward, as Dipu says, in a symbiotic relationship. So there are people who are disrupting onboarding, the lending, cards, or maybe a payment solution. So that's going to happen, and it's going to continue at a rapid pace. So our philosophy is that in very, very core areas, we will continue to build our own digital solutions. We have a very strong digital banking team who are creating all those agile solutions, thinking we are a completely new digital bank. But there are other areas where we are partnering with a lot of these fintech companies who are powering our solution. But one thing one must remember is that it's easy to go ahead and open an account. It's easy to distribute loan or give a card to a lot of customers. But what is the key philosophy around banking is that know your customer. Know your customer is not knowing the customer once and looking at some of the address proof, but profiling the customer well, tracking the customer transaction pattern, identifying possibilities of something going wrong and handling that AML. Or if for in a lending scenario, how do you really understand that which customers are likely to be paying and which is not likely to be paying? These are all risk indicators. Those things banks do understand well. So fintechs can bring in that technology simplicity, and the banks can bring that the banking knowledge and expertise, and that can really go well. So that's one part of it. So we are actually working very closely with many of them. The second part is, you said simplicity. My philosophy is very simple. All the solutions that you are creating, unless those are very simple for the customer to navigate, I think they are not going to use it. And the classic example is WhatsApp, Facebook. My 80-year-old father-in-law, he can seamlessly use WhatsApp, and he's using Facebook to whatever extent none of us do use it. And how is it happening? Because it's so simple at a front end, but it is a complex technology at a back end. So how do you really bring that complex technology at a back end and yet create a simple front end is what is going to really win it for us. And that's what we will keep doing it to make sure that both employees and customers are able to imbibe all those cool technologies.
Sure, Ratan, good to note that, you are, of course, doing a lot of digital stuff on your own, and at the same time collaborating with fintechs as well. Now, coming to you, Rameshwar, at FreeCharge, you must be collaborating with a lot of, banks and legacy companies. Give us a sense of some of those collaborations and how it's working out for you. How do you sort of expand your customer base, so to speak, by tying up and collaborating with some of these larger enterprises?
Yeah, right. So you rightly mentioned basically any fintech basically sort of any fintech want to do anything into the financial services, they need help of the banking or insurance company, right? Which is basically enterprise level. So largely we are collaborating with Axis Bank only, and we are doing lots of things with the help of Axis Bank. One of key piece is like that I talked about Pay Later, which is basically, it's not Pay Later, it's complete paperless digital lending platform we are making, where we can onboard small ticket size loans as well as basically some mid size basically loans, right? Another thing is like open banking, which is like biggest thing in the coming times, where basically enterprise and fintechs can collaborate and make basically seamless products to the consumer. Third one is neo banking, which is basically banking minus all the basically your offline legacy, which is branches and all, which is basically new age tech savvy people can opt for, and they can do whatever they want to do by themselves. No guided basically solution there. Seamless technology, obviously, like Ratan is said, very complex at the back, which banks understands, and for consumers it's like very quick and easy, so you can go ahead and utilize that product well.
Okay, so I think we've all spoken about, how we've collaborated at all our enterprises and, how it's working for us. Let's look at some of the specific things that all of you have done within your organizations. And Dipu, I think you mentioned this at the outset, but if you can tell us a little bit more, in detail, so we can get more tangible insight into how exactly you went about doing it and what the impact was. So you essentially, were able to switch from the contact center to digital assets without any setbacks, as you mentioned. How did, you go about digital servicing, and how much % of your services are now digital? Give us a sense of, your NPS, as well as, did you see any sort of a dip in grievances? Tell us what went on behind the scenes.
Shivani, you're taking me back, 18 months to the start of the pandemic. You see, nobody was prepared for COVID-19, right? BCP plans on COVID-19 didn't work. So, and you can't digitize overnight. I think the good thing for us is, we had embarked on a digital transformation journey much in advance. So what we had done was, we did not pick niche cases. We said, let's take the bull by the horns. So we had figured out key drivers of traffic into the contact center, the real heavy stuff. And then, we had built frictionless, seamless journeys on our digital assets, mobile app, customer portal, WhatsApp, our AI-driven bot, so on and so forth. So when COVID-19 happened for us, we were ready. I think what we had to do was basically communicate to our customers. So we embarked on a massive communication blitzkrieg. We didn't wait for them to call the call center, find that they could not get through, and then be told about, the availability of servicing. We told them immediately, these are unprecedented times. There's a 3-week lockdown. Contact centers may not function because people can't go to office and there's a complete shutdown. So please don't worry, we have all these assets available. And because we were prepared, it was a surprise even to us at that time that our grievance ratio at that time actually fell by 90%. So people became, comfortable with WhatsApp, our bots, our portals, our mobile app, so on and so forth. And when we also got an independent, NPS done through a market research firm, we realized that we were enjoying the highest, NPS in the industry on motor and health, which are the two largest lines of business, and by a significant, distance over our competitors by almost, 20%. And what we did was, I think, attention to detail. I think the devil lies in the details. So, for example, if you were to, interact with our bot wouldn't just, answer your basic queries and then tell you saying if it's a complex query, and I'm sorry, I have to terminate the chat. Why don't you, call up the call center or go to our website? The bot would transfer to a human being seamlessly. And then over a period of time using NLP and AI, we would keep teaching the bot. So the bot's own percentage query resolution first time kept increasing. And for the customer at that point of time, it was a one-stop shop. Similarly, like I told you about multilingual. So our bot could also answer queries, in languages beyond English. That helped us, amplify our reach. And at that time, if you notice, people were very wary of touch, right? Social distancing, nobody wants to press the button in the elevator or the key in the ATM. So we also gave voice-based servicing. So our bot was integrated, for example, with Alexa and Google Assistant. If you add them at home, you could, give a voice command, it speaks to our bot and your request gets fulfilled. So I think a combination of, man and machine and keeping the customer center of everything helped us not just survive, but actually thrive through the crisis.
Sure, Dipu, I know I took you back there, but of course, thanks for sharing that journey with us and all those, tangible, impactful results, both for, the company as well as consumers at the end of the day. And now coming to you, Ratan, at Axis Bank, we believe that you've launched your own range of wearable contactless payment devices called Wear and Pay. So tell us a little bit more about that and how can customers really use this to carry out a contactless transaction on the go? Because this, of course, is a very interesting feature.
Yeah, so this was an idea which, of course, in a sense, we borrowed from, let's say, Apple Watch, but also something which came out of a bit of a compulsion of really allowing contactless. And you will know that in credit card, we used to have this tap and pay features. Now, we decided that even the credit card, we found that some of the customers are not very happy to really take the card out of it and do all of that. Mm-hmm. So we created these devices which are banned. Then there is a wristwatch hook or a ring, and it's simply the chip of the card, credit card, the card is inserted into it, and you can simply tap and then use it almost like a card transaction based on the regulation which are allowed. Now, it's a cool device. It looks very neat. It's a very cost-effective one. The cost is just around 750 rupees. And we are now launching it in a big way in terms of mobile devices. So far, it has been, you can avail it by walking into branch or giving a call. We are now going into the mobile banking. And as soon as that happens, I think we see tremendous amount of uptake of that particular product.
Great, Ratan, sounds very exciting. And, how many people are actually using this? Do you have some sort of data on how many people are using this and how is it working?
So far, the people who are using it are using it repeat times. Mm-hmm. But as I said, that it is, so far the journey is created out of a branch or a call center. We still don't have the mobile journey. So the numbers are not too high, but those who are using are actually giving good feedback. And also there is a bit of an issue with regards to the network provider. We are actually switching the network provider to take it to the larger markets. So as of now, the numbers are not too large, but those who are using, they're giving great feedback. So we are optimistic that we can take it to a completely new level.
Sure. I'm sure consumers, of course, will take it up at quick speed when it sort of spreads further, into the market, and all those tech issues, of course, is always work in progress. Rameshwar, you, of course, have spoken about the entire pay later facility that you have been focusing on recently. A lot of banks, of course, are now taking that buy now, pay later route to grow their customer base. So tell us a little bit more about all of this. You have launched a slew of comprehensive financial products this year as well. If you can also tell us a little bit about your neo banking platform that will be launched soon, and how exactly are you going to take that forward?
Right. So Freecharge was earlier basically into the payment space only, which is basically only do payments and recharges. Now we are sort of focusing on building a full circle product around financial services, which is basically investment portfolio, neo banking portfolio, our buy now, pay later portfolio, our digital lending portfolio. That's all basically we are focusing on. We are trying to be the place where basically consumer can come and basically avail all sort of financial services with us. Our basically advantage is we have lots of data of the consumer, right? So we can underwrite well to the basically customer, given the fact we have the basically historical basically their transaction patterns and all. So we can basically offer them products which basically pre-approved kind of things, which is basically pre-approved loan, pre-approved cards, pre-approved pay later kind of things, right? Where basically customer can come and avail quickly. Our complete focus is to build a full stack versus only into the payment domain.
Sure, Rameshwar. Now coming to Rajesh, again from a service provider point of view, how is NextGen's enterprise cloud services helping fintechs scale right now? Because that's of course key going forward, scaling, and with the entire IT infrastructure becoming a core to a business, not just the backbone anymore. How are you also helping fintechs and enterprises save on recurring IT spends?
I think, if you look at the entire banking thing, right? I don't want to club fintech and banking as a separate thing, because as a consumer, I consume different services, different channels together. I have a wallet, I have my own core banking thing. I use credit cards and debit cards. So in a whole this thing, what are the three things that we learn? One, how do we help customers save? How do we help them transact? And what is the lending, credits, or loans business in terms of the fintech side of it? So first and foremost, I think all of these guys, require a good cloud computing and a data center platform, because everything what we talk, you see 70% answers that we got is all about digital, right? There is a process enablement, there is innovation at the process side, and then there is a huge digital transformation that banks have adopted, fintechs have adopted, and leverage certain things. So we categorize this in terms of cloud computing, security around that cloud, in terms of managing and mobilizing different engines, be it AI, ML engine, a bot, voice bot, chat bot kind of engines. So all of these things required a huge amount of processing, connectivity, as well as the distributed method in terms of a public, private, or even a hybrid cloud. So we innovated edge computing. We took some of workloads on the containerized microservices that few applications were kind of adopting. So we mobilized them. We actually save them in terms of giving them a unified storage where a large amount of data can also be easily augmented onto that platform. We created a transacting ecosystem where you actually co-host multiple of these service providers and all that together within the same cloud, or federated them with across. So a lot of things that we did in terms of enabling the data devices as well as a data center. A crux of it is all about data science, right? So how do you ingest that data? How do you process that data? And we then ensure that all these things are encapsulated with the right platform of managed services, data protection services, as well as anything that is allied to that. Could be a database as a service. So consumption pattern we have observed in last 2 years have drastically changed. a traditional, banks who were doing iterative thinking in terms of, getting a leaps and bound into digital services, adopting a lot of, new technologies and then doing that. And where are the fintechs or startups who are completely first, first principle of design thinking, where how the process or how they come from the consumer side and then mobilize certain things. So we had to balance both of these things, protect the traditional ways of transacting for the fintech or the banks, as well as give them a new channel of different emerging technologies. Could be AI, ML, could be IoT, could be anything that they would want in terms of adopting. That we have to be ready in terms of fulfilling that.
Sure, great to note, how you've also sort of adopted with the changing times, balancing the infrastructure and services that you provide for the entire ecosystem when it comes to BFSI and fintech, Rajesh. Now, you, of course, also mentioned the huge amount of data and data protection. Of course, the BFSI space is a highly sensitive sector. So when it comes to, cybersecurity, cybercrime cases, of course, have been on the rise. And with so much, adoption of digital payments now, that indeed is a cause of concern, protecting your data. So when it comes to data protecting services and solutions, how are you really servicing your clients on that front? And have you seen some sort of an uptick in those sort of products and solutions?
Yes, obviously, I think security has not changed any kind of metaphor, but as the landscape of technology changes, the threat vectors are also changing, right? So we have to be far more, proactive in terms of, working with our customers, co-create certain things with our different ISVs or OEMs. See, if you look at a traditional way of protecting data at rest, data while it is in motion was a known notion. But data while it is in processing, the latest stuff which has come in terms of a system aggregator, platform or a network that RBI launched a couple of weeks back, why it was required? Because everybody natively, if you see 80s, I've been from that era where I used to go to the bank to update my passbook, right? Then we went to net banking. Then now we are into mobile banking. And the threat in mobile banking is data scraping. One application who has SMS access is reading somebody else's SMS access and pulling that data and then doing any kind of AI or data analytics modeling in terms of a risk behavior for not only their customers, but the customers consuming the app on your mobile. And that is where the threat vectors have changed. And that is where we want to get into something far more sophisticated called as confidential computing. So what does it entail? Is that we work with Intel. We have got certain things where if an application is aware of a specific thread or processing, we actually isolate that process while it is inside a core. Because everybody knows that when you're processing something, everything is decrypted. And if one process can hijack another process, that critical data can be lost. So confidential computing is one of the vectors with SGX and all those kind of technologies that we actually imbibed in our platform. So our platform is already future ready in terms of doing any kind of banking things, and banking regulations are also changing. Maybe another few years you will see that a regulator is nothing but an AI driven engine which is going to go and do correlation between what is happening at a device, which is what is happening at your data center. I see a few of my panelists are smiling at that because everybody is thinking about this, right? That how do you beat a system? We have seen an AI engine doing a fraud and another AI engine fighting that fraud. Right, fingerprints are getting created artificially where you can beat into other system and doing that. So there are challenges, and obviously if there are challenges, there are our jobs, and it keeps us exciting in terms of solving those problems.
Sure, Rajesh, some great aspects that you brought up there and great insight as well, to see that technology, of course, has to be future ready, and you always need to be a step ahead when it comes to, cyber security. So Dipu and Ratan, if you can also throw some light on this, what are you all doing at your organizations, and any tips, that you would like to give to other B2B players or other fintech product companies that are slowly emerging to really secure their transactions and prevent fraud?
I think Rajesh covered, a great deal, from a technical perspective. And just to clarify to Rajesh, the smile was because, I do agree with what you say. That's why I was just imagining that. But from a, from a user perspective, just to add, some dimensions, I'll not repeat what Rajesh said. I think one thing which we have seen, Shivani, and of course, even Rajesh, since he spoke about this topic, is, very often, these issues happen because the users do something inadvertently. So I think there is a lot of focus on, sensitizing them, and especially in, in the work from home environment, because now you no longer, have the luxury of having a firewall, at your office, right? You need to ensure that they don't do anything funny, and, similarly, they don't get attacked. So therefore, I think, training users, I think, becomes very, very critical. That's one. The second is like how Rajesh said, now since it's all digital, therefore, leveraging AI to look at patterns, right? Because you got to be constantly vigilant. So I think, clearly, leveraging that, I think that's clearly there. And of course, we can't give away too many tricks of the trade because we don't want potential fraudsters to figure out what we are doing. But rest assured, we've all invested heavily in cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Rajesh and Deepu said. I think the technical side of it was explained by Rajesh in terms of data in rest, data in motion, data in processing. But from banking perspective, based on the regulation and the threat that we all see every single day, it's such a massive task for us. So for us, we believe that first thing first is really identifying the right customer. So onboarding becomes a very, very important element of our job. And therefore, it's not know your customer on the letter, but it has to be on the spirit of it. So that's number one, which is very, very important. Second is we are spending enormous amount of resources to really keep tracking customer transaction patterns every single moment. And so the data in processing is how to really find anything which is beyond the pattern and alert the customers, use the risk engine to stop the transaction or reach out to the customer quickly and keep changing that very, very dynamically. That's the second element of it. The third is clearly we got to have customer education in a big way. In banking parlance, most often gullible customers, and it is not gullible doesn't mean not educated. We have got professors from IITs getting duped by fraudsters, So you got to really how you educate customer in a very simple way as to what are the do's and don'ts. And that is something that we keep doing. And I think Deepu touched about employee training and ensuring that. The last element, of course, is very important. We've got a clearly expert team who are not only expert in cybersecurity, they are expert in data science. They are actually thinking like fraudster, what could possibly think, and really use some of the platform that Rajesh spoke about to keep ourselves in the edge. But clearly, it's a game which is constantly happening real time, and we have to be ahead of everybody else, which is very difficult because fraudsters are ahead of everyone else. So it is a constant challenge, and that keeps all of us awake at night, frankly.
Sure, keeping you awake at night, keeping you on your toes. But if you are, of course, future prepared, you've got yourself covered, and great points there, Ratan. You mentioned that it, securing yourself and being vigilant right from, knowing your customers, onboarding them, educating your customers, and of course, your entire employee base as well. So thanks for that point of view. Now, if I were to take closing comments from all of you, Rameshwar, what would you say about, the future 2022? We've got a new normal. We've got, a digital transformation happening at a scale and pace that was not anticipated. So are you ready for this? And, is the future exciting? Is the future challenging? How are you looking at it?
Yes. I would say there is the digital transaction is the only way to go in the future, right? People will not carry their physical currency. People will be basically focusing more into the digital currency only. So simplified product, digital product will be the good way to go, which is basically a very exciting era ahead for the fintechs, especially for the banks as well, for the insurance industry as well. Because fintech basically works hand on hand with both industry, right? That's where we bring values. I think clearly digital simplified product is the way to go.
Right, closing comments from you, Deepu. How are you viewing the future? Are you looking at more collaborations with fintech? Are you looking at expanding your digital sort of team and products?
So Shivani, collaboration and, going the digital way are evergreen. I think, as I said, we started this even before the pandemic. Your specific carry on, crystal ball gazing for the future, we see 2-3 trends. One is, the future is likely to be phygital. And why we say phygital is because while the processing can be digital, but the fulfillment has got to be physical. If you look at our industry, if you are unwell, you take health insurance, you have to go to the hospital to get treated. You can't get healed digitally. And similarly, if you crash your car, you have to take it to the workshop to get it repaired. It can't be repaired digitally. So the future is going to be, digital, from that point of view. The other is, self-service, is here to stay. For example, tomorrow you might have, customers, through a remote video, carrying out repairs at their home, with assistance from players, right? If you want to look at real estate, maybe, you have a curated, remote, viewing of the, of the products on offer. So I think clearly that is there. And thirdly, the office, as they say, is likely to become the new offsite, right? Because with work from home, you end up going to office once in a while. So I think some of these trends, are likely to define the new normal, in the next few months.
Sure, office is going to become the offsite, and phygital is the way forward. So that's the key takeaway from you, Dipu. Coming to you, Ratan, how are you looking at the future? Tell us what you are sort of putting into place at Axis Bank to go the next step when it comes to reaching out to consumers, both in the rural markets as well as, to the Bharat users, so to speak, and onboarding more millennials when it comes to digitizing your bank and getting younger customers to sort of take up services.
Yeah, I think you touched upon some of the elements that we are actually working on. One, clearly, I completely agree with what Dipu said. Phygital is the way to go. Clearly, with partners like Freecharge and many other fintech partners, Freecharge is, of course, a very strong partner building lots of solution, an integrated solution. I think one, I clearly see the partnership with fintechs is going to grow more closely. But the fintechs will also have to understand that it's not just designing one component of a solution, ability to integrate with some of the existing systems of the bank, like my core system for lending, core system for liabilities or for cards. So how do they integrate with that to be able to provide an integrated customer-facing solution is something that's going to be the key trend that we will see. The second, I think we are investing heavily on Bharat, where you will get to see more and more how we design solution which you can take it to the rural part of the India, not just for our own benefits, but broadly to contribute for the country. Third, we see significant amount of investment on the SME sector, because that's the need of the country. So we want to contribute. And at the same time, we believe there is enormous amount of money to be made out of that sector at the same time contribute for the country. And the fourth one I see very clearly is that from a customer experience perspective, irrespective of everything that you do digital, you will continue to have some friction. And when friction happens, customer need you. So that whole empathy, that Dil Se Open is going to be more and more important as we move forward into the future.
Thanks for your views there, Ratan. Now coming to you, Rajesh, how are you looking at this? Because all of this that we've been speaking about is being enabled by tech and infrastructure. So going into the future, are you looking at any sort of more innovative products where you're servicing both BFSI and fintech companies, any sort of collaborative companies that they would launch together going in the future? As we said, a lot of these digital natives and fintech companies are, direct to the cloud at the get-go. So how are you looking at products being shaped when it comes to the future?
So, our products are obviously demanded by the customers, right? So whatever is the need for the customers, which could be a traditional bank, it could be a fintech, it could be a startup, and then we have to fulfill everybody and remain, relevant to them in terms of, giving their services. So I think there are 4 or 5 big buckets that I see in the technology aspect of it. AI, ML, data science, these are the things which are now established and will go further. I think blockchains, getting certain things with HPC. We already have a HPC service launch because the complexity, we've seen that you have internal data, internal platforms which are actually correlating or correlation of the engines which are happening. You're now federating with external agencies also. So a profile of your customer is not only within your own data set. You're actually federating with somebody else, trying to do this risk profile, and that is where credit scores and all that are getting emerged, right? And then the newer platforms which are getting created in terms of how to handle this data. And this data needs to be stored, it needs to be processed, it needs to be transmitted. I think 5G satellite connectivity will enable a lot of rural India in terms of coming back, and the data currently we had these issues because we couldn't process it faster. Now at the data center part, we have quantum computing or HPC, which are already getting seeded. And I see maybe another 10 years, quantum computing as a service on the cloud is the most relevant thing which will happen. Because why would bank have to build certain things to process and store the data when they can actually do far more things in terms of contextual kind of a banking? Because with open banking and contextual banking, you are going to get federated with multiple of these things, and you will get far more segmented and niche in terms of whatever your specialized area is. So we are looking at enabling them with different engines, right? You have AI/ML engine. We have a DevOps lab that we created where we offer startups certain things. We launch HPC as a service where we offer 1,000 core hours, 1 lakh core hours free to any academia in India. So they don't need to invest or wait for budgets and course and this thing. They can just bring their job, run their job, and we are far more happy in terms of servicing them. And we are creating that culture of co-creation and cooperation in terms of a ecosystem. And without an ecosystem, technologies in silos will never work. A bank cannot implement a blockchain unless he understands that it is a federated thing, and the smart contracts will span across multiple service providers or stakeholders. So there are lots of niche things that we are doing, and we are keeping this. We call this as a pay tech rather than a fintech or this thing, because it is consumer driven. Consumer is creating a transaction, and that is where you are servicing this. So it could be a transaction that he wants to do it on the fly, and that's why you have seen the multiple wallets are attached to e-commerce, because you see certain things and you want to buy it right there. So you don't go back to your bank and then try to find out your seller and all that, and you mobilize everything here. I think UPI is a fantastic example that we have seen, where you no longer need account number or anything for moving the money. Now the same thing would happen with biometric facial recognition, and I think a lot of guys have already mentioned that voice-based bots are there, but I think it's a voice-based banking that would be starting the new era of this thing. So we are far more geared up in terms of addressing certain things. We are far more exciting, and we actually are investing more and more time in emerging technologies. We have got teams which are shaping up in terms of different areas. We co-create certain things, and it is not a commercial aspect only, because we want to stay relevant. So we have to invest, and we have to keep funding our own research along with our partners and OEMs.
Sure, Rajesh, great way of looking at it. And on that note, I think we'd wrap it up. As you mentioned, Rajesh, nobody can afford to work in silos anymore, be it, traditional BFSI, fintechs, and even the technology service providers. You all have to sort of come together and co-create as an ecosystem to enable each other. So thank you, everyone, for that informative discussion and for taking the time out to really share your valuable insight with the audience. As we slowly edge towards the post-COVID world, one thing, of course, is certain. As we've been saying, BFSI and fintech can no longer afford to operate in silos. A collaboration-driven approach will indeed help banks as well as fintechs to stay competitive and really create the best experience for customers. And before we conclude today's episode, I'm glad to introduce Pankaj Shukla, Director and Solution Engineering Leader, Enterprise Business at VMware India, to deliver the closing remarks for the session and highlight the key takeaways. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah, thanks, Shivani. I think it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really thrilled to be talking to all of you. In fact, I was going through the what other panelists said, whether those are from fintechs like CCharge or from Axis Bank or from Bajaj. All of them, the central theme around all of them was that digital is the way to go ahead. And today, probably 4 or 5 years back, if digital could be one of the strategies for organizations, today it has become the central part of the strategy, because that is the only way to take care of customer experience. And all of them spoke about that, irrespective of whatever disruption which we have seen in the last couple of years and the kind of trends which industry is going through, if you take care of the customer experience, then you take care of the revenue, and the rest of the things fall in place. So what is important is that how do you go about implementing digital? And if you think about digital technologies, so there are a number of technologies which the sector is looking at right now, whether they are fintechs or those are traditional banks, and this could be blockchain, IoT, AI, and ML. But two technologies where most organizations have already started adopting, and these are kind of the biggest tech enablers of our times. These are cloud and application modernization. Now, if you talk to organization at the ground, they will say that the cloud is something which provides them the kind of scale, agility, and the flexibility and commercial flexibility if they want to launch new digital service. And the point is that if you go on the ground and talk to various at the department level, that what is the pace of deployment. So what is important right now is that you have built your digital roadmap, but how are you implementing it? How are you executing it? And there are a number of challenges which organizations are facing today. The first challenge which they face, and I'll talk about 3 challenges here. The first one is regarding that when they go about adopting cloud, they're concerned about the portability across clouds. They're concerned about getting logged into a particular cloud provider. So how do you take care of a multi-cloud challenge, which the situation which in more or less they're going to get into as you move forward? Second is that the pace of application modernization is pretty slow. And there are a couple of reasons for that. There is a lack of skill in most organizations when you go about building new microservices-based applications, or you're building agile and DevOps-based methodologies. And then the existing infrastructure which they have built is largely based on supporting the legacy virtual machine-based applications. But what has happened is that now with advent of Kubernetes and containers, those capabilities also need to exist in the existing platform. So this is the reason because of which the pace of application modernization is pretty slow. And third and most importantly is the cybersecurity. That has emerged as the top challenge, because now applications getting distributed across data centers, clouds, the users working from anywhere, using any kind of device, the concept of perimeter has kind of melted. And on top of that, the financial services sector is at the target of the cybersecurity attacks. In fact, if you look at any survey, whether it is Gartner or McKinsey, more than 50% of the cyber attacks during the pandemic happened only on the financial services sector. So this is very critical. And finally, another important point which the sector needs to take care is that when pandemic hit, they were pretty good in terms of responding to the immediate challenge of remote work. But over a period of time, they are trying to find a balance between remote and office work. And everybody understands that hybrid is going to remain a reality for times to come. So the sector needs to evolve a long-term strategic view and 360-degree view of how do you go about building a solution which takes care of allowing users to access applications from anywhere using any device. That is something which is very, very critical. Now, there is a VMware's point of view as well in this. As you know that VMware has this vision of building digital foundation for most organizations for last 5 to 10 years. Basically that we allow customers to run any applications on any cloud, deliver it to any device, and by making security intrinsically to each of these layers. Now, the promise which VMware brings on the table is that we can help customers build a platform-centric approach or a digital foundation on which you can allow running any kind of application, whether it is a fintech new digital application, or it is a traditional application, whether, for example, a core banking application. You should be able to run both kind of applications on the platform which you build, and that platform should be able to run either on your on-prem or on the public cloud or across multiple clouds, so that you get the portability and flexibility of running it across and moving your workloads from one cloud to the other. So what we are saying is that we can help you build a multi-cloud modern app secure platform to take care not only of your needs today, but which is also a future ready. And finally, one important point is that how do you enable a digital workspace for your workforce which enhances their productivity? And that is where we are trying to bring a number of technologies which are related to endpoints, users, the network, cloud applications, and trying to build security inside that, and coming up with a solution like SASE, which kind of binds everything together to provide a secure connectivity to users anywhere and to applications, the applications residing on any cloud or multi-cloud environment. So that is what which is very important for the sector to now look into that. And what is critical right now is that while you build your digital roadmap, it is important that how do you take care of these challenges and how do you go ahead and implementing it at a faster pace with the agility which you need.
Thank you, Pankaj.
So if you are a bank or a fintech considering a partnership, we do hope that this session was really helpful to you. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time here on this episode of CXO Diaries. Till then, stay safe and stay healthy. We'll be back with the next episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shivani.